Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. Today we're talking rules of engagement, this episode of Deep Space Nine. Now, before I get going too far on this, I want to let you know that there are spoilers in this review. Usually I try to avoid them, but in this case I believe that the whole point of the story is in the shock reveal at the end. So I hope that you will continue to watch, because I think that this is a very well-written episode in the way that they do this. This is something we've seen before, and not just in Star Trek, but in other shows as well, where a main character is put on trial. In this case, it's an extradition hearing of which Worf would be taken off to the Klingon Empire to be tried for the wrongful death, shall we say, of over 400 passengers on a civilian transport ship carrying Klingons. Now, we knew from the very beginning that Worf was not going to be extradited because he's a main character and he's got to be back next week. So usually you would consider this a dead-end episode. However, the writing was clever in that once they went through all of this, and they had some creative ways of doing it, during testimony they would actually flash back to scenes that they are talking about and actually have the character in the scene doing the testifying, which was a clever little trick. And I enjoyed that. I also loved the acting chops of Avery Brooks, who throughout the episode shows a whole range of emotions and does it all through just the look on his face more than anything that he says. The Klingon advocate is one who is certainly playing the good lawyer part and relishes being constrained by the Federation protocol in conducting the trial, in which he said facts don't matter as much as procedure does. And while you talk about finding the truth in legal matters, very often procedure does have more to do with it than the actual justice of it sometimes. But that's beside the point. What I have found in this episode that I find so fascinating is that after all is said and done, what happened that we knew was going to happen did happen. The usual trope of the surprise witness at the end, or the surprise piece of evidence at the end, is something we expected would happen, because that's the way they do it. It'd never be accepted in any kind of court, really. You always have to have these things planned before you don't rest your case and then come back and say, hey, I've got one more thing. They usually won't allow that. But they do it all the time in television, and so that's just another one of those things you come to expect. So after it's all done, and this is what I think makes the entire episode, Worf is in his quarters on the Defiant. He is a couple of episodes back said that he wants to sleep on the Defiant because he's not really comfortable being on the station with all this stuff going on there that's between civilians and various different races that inhabit Deep Space Nine. But Sisko goes to visit him in his quarters, and he says to him, there's a celebration. And Worf says, well, I'm not interested in that. And he says, well, why not? And Worf says, well, I realize that I made an error in judgment. And Sisko says, I'm glad you realize that. And then gives him a very stern talking to, shall we say, a dressing down, if you will. He told Worf, absolutely you were in the wrong. You never fire on a ship that you have not identified, no matter what the patterns say, because while you were acting to protect your ship and crew, the Federation way is to make the ship and crew expendable if it has a threat of harming civilians. And you knew that there was a possibility of civilians being in that area. And Worf says, well, there's whole different things to worry about in this red uniform, which is to say that he moved from the gold uniform to the red uniform, means he's now in the command area, the place where you move to eventually become a captain and eventually become an admiral. Sisko says, yeah, and you got lucky, and one day you'll be a captain. And Worf says, if it's anything like this, I'm not sure what to think about it. And Sisko says, once you get 4 pips on that uniform, you'll wish that you were in botany. It's a great line. And so I think that part was the best part of it. First of all, it shows Sisko in anger. It shows Worf actually being contrite, which you don't see that often in any of the episodes. He would do something that nobody would like, but he would get away with it. This time he pretty much doesn't. And I mean, he gets away with it legally, but in Sisko's eyes, that's a step down that he's going to have to prove himself over in Sisko's eyes too. So I think that last 5 minutes was worth the entire episode. And I can't really give you the gist of what that was like. It's something you really have to watch. Even if you know what's going to happen now, it is something that is a good scene, good acted by both actors. And says also something about being in a position of authority. It's not about you. It's not about your decisions as much as it is about the fact that you have people that depend on you. You have to make sure that those people are looked after, and not just in times of danger, but in times of celebration as well. That it is sometimes necessary for you to put on the mask of being happy when you're not, and in doing so, support the people who would lay down their lives for you. And so that's that story, and I think that it's a good one, and I recommend it highly. It's one of the better ones, I believe. Meantime, we have information now that April 12th will be the start of the new season of Doctor Who. We'll be covering that. We'll also be covering the new season of Andor, which is coming out also in April. And so we'll have some new things to talk about, and we're looking forward to that. Starfleet Academy is coming out, but we don't know exactly when, but we're keeping a lookout for that as well. And we will be covering all of those things on this channel. As a result, I am going to be setting aside my retirement channel, and that will be paused for an indefinite period of time. Until we have nothing to do over here, I guess. But for the moment, that's going to be paused. So I thank all of you who crossed over from here to help me get that one started. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to this, and until next time, when I may have sock puppets, don't go far.